We've got a question for you this week. What if God does not change a condition? Well, that's a question that was asked of our guest for this week's edition of the Untold when she went to her pastor to speak about her child who has Down syndrome. And we're here to speak with Agnes Teiko Nyemite. Her story is right here behind these gates, and we are glad that you can join us this week. My name is Echi Atizu. Come along. Hello, Auntie Aggie.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you're well.
Yes, I'm well.
Wonderful. It's good to be in your home this morning.
Well, welcome.
Ah, Toda! How are you? Wonderful. Today I'm in your house. Today I'm in your house. Are you off to school?
Yeah.
You go to school this morning?
I'll go.
What? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you very much, Auntie Aggie. The third of 6 children born to her parents, Agnes Teiko Nyemite starts her story by sharing her fears about not getting an education.
I was born in Tema, but I grew up with my auntie at Koforidua, where I had all my education to the secondary school. I started school at 8 years. It's interesting. Thinking back, I thought I couldn't have education, but thanks be to God, at 8 I started school, but I went through to the secondary school through a common entrance examination. I came back to live with my parents in Tama, where I went to the Social Advance Institute to pursue a course in secretariatship because my late mom wanted me to be a secretary. Thanks to Auntie Phyllis, late Auntie Phyllis. My mom will watch her, see her dress up for work, and she appealed to my mother so much, so my mother wanted me to be like her. So she asked Auntie Phyllis what she does at PZ Cousins, and then she said she's a secretary. So my mother told me, I want you to be a secretary like Auntie Phyllis. So throughout my secondary school, I wanted to be a secretary because my mother wanted me to. So after secondary school, she made sure I pursued her dreams for me to be a secretary. So I went to the Social Advance Institute and I passed out as a secretary. I've been working as a secretary till date, thanks to my mother, who had a vision for me I didn't have myself.
Getting married at the age of 29, she remembers how she was under pressure to give birth while still single because many thought she was getting old.
I got married rather late. I was 29. I remember when I gave birth to my son, my mother was so happy, and then she expressed that people were not going to worry her again. Mini be obi on my for, no be obi for, as we say in our local language. And my mother was so happy that finally at 29 years, I had a son. My mother said that she always tells them that my daughter is not married. Why are you expecting her to have a child? Because in the neighborhood where we live, they give birth like that. So they thought I should do same. But thanks to God, I gave birth to Kobe, my son, when I was 29.
While still married, she unfortunately had to play a single mother role after her husband went away forever without notice. Her mother's last words would also come to make sense to her after a few years.
My husband then traveled out to the US when Kobe was 2.5 years and did not return. To date, he has not returned from the US. So I had to single-handedly take care of my son. Till date, he's 28 years now. So I waited for him. He wasn't coming. I remember the last words of my mother to me. It was a Wednesday, and then she said to me, Teko, you have to get divorced from your husband because he will do you no good. I did not understand my mother then. And my mother had gone to tell my Auntie Rose, that she should make sure that she gets a divorce from my husband for me, because she thinks that this man was wasting my time. And lo and behold, my mother got sick that Wednesday evening, and then she died on a Friday. A little bit emotional, I'm sorry. And that was the last words of my mother. She wanted me to get a divorce from my husband because he was not going to do me any good. So I did.
Told her, well, that's the name of a second child, and that name means praise. Here is how Toda's father and the circumstances under which she was born all come in.
I met Toda's father. We talked about marriage, and then we got married. He also came from the US. So we got married. And so this man would not let me have peace and wanted me to give him a child. So I prayed. I resorted to prayer. I prayed. And then I had been to the Winners Church, their Bible school. So it was every December they go to Nigeria. Shiloh, they call it Shiloh in Nigeria, the Winners Church, and David Oyadipo's church, Bishop. So after the Bible school with them, I traveled with them to Nigeria. And the purpose of that trip was to pray to God to give me a child. Because my husband was not giving me any peace. He wanted me to give him a child. So I traveled with the Winners Church to Nigeria to pray to God for a child. I remember one time when I was in Nigeria, he spoke to me on phone. And then he started it again. When are you going to give me a child? Blah, 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 blah. There was a woman standing by me, and there was tears in my eyes. And the woman said, "It's your husband, eh? What does he want?" And the woman is from Trinidad. She has also traveled from Trinidad to Nigeria for the program. I wondered how she got to know, how she knew that it was my husband who was talking to me. I said, "Don't mind him. You just focus on why you came here and pray. Don't mind him." So I took her advice, and then I focused on my prayer. I prayed. They asked us to write a prayer request in a bowl. Bishop David himself and all the bishops there pray on it for us. Every request we put in that bowl, and then I came back. A few months after I came back, he also came from the US. And then I got pregnant. I was so happy. I'm pregnant. God has answered my prayer. And when I got pregnant, he had to go back, so he went back.
A doctor delivered the news to Toda's mother that she would immediately reject because all she saw in her daughter was a beautiful girl.
It was a difficult pregnancy because my son was 18 years then. It is a long while, and so it was difficult. The doctors has also told me that there were fibroids in my womb which are fighting with pace with my baby. So anytime my baby wants to turn, it's so difficult because the space for her to turn is not enough. Toda wasn't turning when it was full term. So the doctors had asked me to come for a cesarean because her head was still up. So the time was due for me to go, and then I went through a cesarean section and I had her. The gynecologist who performed the operation on me came in the morning. It was at dawn when the operation was done. So in the morning when he came, he took a close look at her, and then he told me that my daughter looks like a child with Down syndrome. I asked him how, because I did not see anything. I saw a beautiful girl. What? Your hand. I saw a beautiful girl, but he told me that there are so much flesh at the back of her neck, and that is his suspicion that she has Down syndrome. So she was going to ask the pediatrician to come take a closer look at her and examine her to confirm his suspicion. So the following day, the pediatrician came, took a test on her, thorough test on her, and she confirmed that my daughter really has Down syndrome. So then, what is Down syndrome? I asked every nurse who came around that, I asked, what is Down syndrome? And then they tried to explain to me that it is the triplication of the 21st chromosome. What is triplication of 21st chromosome? So in the layman's language, it was explained to me that genes inherited from your mother and from your father, it should sum up to 46. 23 from your mother, 23 from your father. But in the case of the Down syndrome, the 21st chromosome, instead of it doubling, triples. So when it triples, it gives it brings up the Down syndrome, which also brings the physical, the cognitive features that you have with children with Down syndrome, with all that my daughter has.
Still in denial, Agnes resorted to prayer, trusting God to remedy what at that point in her life was not the kind of miracle she had expected from the very God she was praying to again.
So then, for me, I cannot have a child with Down syndrome. Not after I have gone to Shiloh, and for the 1 week you have to fast. I fasted, I prayed, and at 47, with no fertility treatment, I give birth to a beautiful girl, and you tell me that my daughter has Down syndrome. No. I will have to pray to that God who gave me the child to change her condition. So for me, it was prayer. I refused it. No, my daughter cannot have Down syndrome. So till I had this child was discharged from the hospital, I came home. You see, children with Down syndrome, when you take a very close look at them, they don't look like typical children. So anybody who comes and says something, I remember a friend of mine came to visit, and then she said that, Tagi, your daughter is not turning her eye when I turn. There should be something wrong with your daughter. I didn't say anything. I was very mad in my mind. I just gave her some insult in my mind. I didn't say anything. You cannot come and tell me that this, that. I did not listen to anybody. All I was doing is prayer.
Her faith was tested with the question, what if God does not change her?
A reverend minister in my church, Reverend Dorabote, Reverend Dr. Dorabote came visiting, and then she also noticed that my daughter looked like somebody with, she doesn't look like a typical child. So I told her that yes, the doctors had told me that she has Down syndrome, but for me, I'm praying to God to change her condition. Then she asked me, what will I do if God does not change her condition? Because this God can change her, and he can also decide not to. So what will I do if God says that, no, this is the child I'm giving you? It dawned on me that, yes, her condition can be changed and it cannot be changed too, so what do I do? It is then that I resorted to reading about Down syndrome and then finding out what to do to help myself and then also help my baby.
From the dawn of time, people have engaged in several businesses. With the onset of technology and innovation, life has relatively been made easier. By using debit or credit cards,
mobile banking.
Thank you. And your favorite, mobile money?
tech has indeed married business. On BizTech, we spend time with faces behind known and upcoming businesses in the country.
Learn more about the new technologies and innovation,
as well as find out about the trending issues in the world of business.
Join us as we serve you with a variety of compelling interviews, projects, and others right here on Ghana Web TV.
A little too late for her, Agnes came to the realization that this was truly her gift from God, and she owed that child all the love and attention necessary.
Actually, I had lived in denial for close to 2 years. And I wasn't doing what I'm supposed to do for her to grow up well. Because children with Down syndrome come out with a lot of health issues. About 80% of them come with cardio problems. They come with ear condition and then eyes. So you have to critically take them to the hospital for them to be examined to see what is the medical challenge they came out with, so that you address it early, because addressing it early is key to their growth. But I had lived in denial and had refused to do all these things for close to 2 years. It was only when I came to acceptance that this is the child that I have that I decided to go through all these tests and see what is wrong with her and what I can do to help her. Having told her has not been easy. Having a child with Down syndrome is not an easy thing. You have a typical child who, by 6 weeks, when you have to show yourself to the doctor, has grown well, is able to hold the neck, is able to stand on you and jump, but not a child with Down syndrome. The neck will still be at the back of her head after 6 weeks when you go to see the doctor. She will hold her neck after about 3 months. And then you see her body is floppy. They have a floppy body. They are so soft. And they are prone to a lot of infections. I remember after about 2 weeks when I had to go and see the doctor, my auntie who came to take care of me has noticed that Tida has a temperature. She did not tell me, because then I also had this terrible headache, which I understood is from the side effects of the anesthesia. It was so severe that I couldn't even take her to feed her. Because I cannot bend my head, the headache was so severe. So she was on formula. So my auntie, when we went to the hospital, has told me that we should take Toda to see the doctor first. I asked her why. I have come to dress my wound and see the doctor. Then she told me that she has a temperature. And then when she took her to the nurse took her temperature and said, no, we have to take her immediately to see the doctor. So she begged all the patients in the queue so that they will allow her to see the doctor. It was like a flu then, but it got worse that the doctors had to examine her and give her medication there and then at the consulting room before they took her to take care of her. What I want to say is that children with Down syndrome are prone to a lot of infections, and when they are sick and you don't give them immediate medical care, it can result to something else. A lot of attention has to go into them, but the first thing is to acceptance. If you accept that this is the child you have, then you can educate yourself on what to do for yourself and then for your daughter.
What was supposed to be a good news for Tode's father after asking so much for it was not to be so. His conclusion was this: if this is the child you want to give me, then take her.
My husband was in the US, so I had to inform him that I had given birth. I told him I've given birth to a baby girl who was happy. Then I brought the news that the doctor said that my daughter has Down syndrome. I thought with the enlightenment we had in the US, we will know what is Down syndrome. But he blamed me for Tode's condition. He said that they don't have such a person in their family. So it is me, where I come from, we have it. I don't want to, in my family, we don't have it, also have a child with Down syndrome. I'm the first to give birth to a child with Down syndrome in my family. But he blamed me for her condition. And he told me that if this is the child that I'm giving birth to, I should take her. He doesn't want to have anything to do with her. I should take her. So Toda has been my responsibility. Once a while when he feels he has to send money for her upkeep, he will. But not like taking care of her child. So Toda has been my responsibility.
Naturally burdened and depressed from this great test in life, Agnes became an advocate for persons living with Down syndrome.
So having her and the challenges that I went through, I realized that a lot of other mothers will be going through the same challenge. So I told myself that I will want to advocate for persons with Down syndrome. I got to this point not like just I want to advocate. I have gone through depression. I was depressed and I had to go through counseling. I went to counseling sessions for 3 months because I was faced with divorce again. My husband doesn't want to have anything to do with me. So I had faced with divorce again because my elder son also, I had to divorce from his father, getting married to Tode's father, and I realized that I was faced with divorce again. It was a very difficult decision for me to take. But I realized that there was nothing else I can do but to go through it. So I had gone through depression, had to go through counseling. Then after I've pulled through, come up through it, I decided to talk and then to advocate for persons with Down syndrome, and then to tell my story for others to know that it might be difficult in the beginning, but it is not for the entire life of a child with Down syndrome.
Having faced a second divorce by this time, Agnes began to look on the bright side of things. In fact, she speaks of how this became her blessing.
I look at Toda today and I give thanks to God because she doesn't easily fall sick like she used to do by the grace of God. We have come a long journey. She had to be in diapers for 5 years. She started speaking when she was 5 years. I also learned that with physiotherapy and all the therapies that are available, speech and language therapy, occupational therapies, they develop a little bit faster than Toda did. But I did not go through those therapies. I did not take her through those therapies. So she started talking at 5 years. When she can say poo-poo and wee-wee, that is when she was put off diapers. I remember I had to comb through Accra. I started combing through Tema in Accra to get her size of diapers. She was growing out of the sizes for diapers for children. So I didn't know what to do. She was growing and I didn't have, I wasn't able to get diapers her size. But thanks to God, she started speaking. She started saying wee-wee and poo-poo. So I had to put her through off diapers. Thanks to her school where she is now, Roma Christian Academy, they also helped me a lot. When I took her to school, first day in school, she was 5 years when she started school there. When she was 5 and then she was in diapers, I told them already that she has Down syndrome. She said they were ready to admit her And then when I took her to school and she was in diapers, they asked why. I told them, and then she said I should remove it. And then they were going to help me put her off diapers. So they did a great job for me. And I was only putting on her diapers for her when she was about to go to bed. And then she came off diapers. So it's not an easy journey with a child with Down syndrome, but it is achievable, it is attainable with a lot of love and acceptance. A lot of love and patience, and accepting that this is the child I have. There are a lot of things you can do for them. Even though they have intellectual disability, there are a lot more that they can do. I believe that since you came here, you've seen some of the things Toda can do, and then you see the kind of intelligence that she has. I believe that if she cannot grow up to be a lawyer, she can grow up to be a very good dancer, or she can grow up to be a very good model for a very reputable clothing line. So it is not easy, but it is achievable.
How and why does she look so young at 57 years? Agnes knows she's not superhuman, and it is the same way she understands that worry will do her no good.
The other time somebody said that I look 40, somebody said 45, and the oldest I had is somebody said I look 48 years. Actually, growing up, I prayed God that He should let me look younger than my age. That was my desire. But growing up, I learned something, that worry makes you grow older than your age. If you don't worry too much, it keeps you young. So what I did was I lived by the day. Anything that worries me, I cry. If I have to cry, I weep. But I also decide to let life go on. So for me, my slogan is life goes on. I told myself that I wasn't going to allow anybody to put a full stop at my life. I have gone through a lot of challenges. I've gone through divorce twice. I had to take care of my 2 children single-handedly. My son finished the university. He recently had a job. He had been out of job. I have to take care of him through school single-handedly. I had to forfeit all the luxury. I tell myself that I will look less expensive, dress less expensive so that I can have money to pay my son's school fees. I do not want my son to be sacked out of school because of school fees. He would then be crying and be thinking of where his father is, why he has to come be sacked out of school, and he will feel humiliated. So what I do is that I save money for my son's education, for Toda's education. People say I look glamorous. They think I am expensive, but I'm not expensive. Everything I wear is not expensive. I don't like expensive things. I tell myself that you don't have to be expensive to look nice. You can be moderate and also look nice. So I don't buy expensive things. I remember when Brazilian hair came, somebody told me, "Agi, me who's a per wig Brazilian hair." I said, "Brazilian hair, they mean pe. Obi training they mean pe. Hey, dabi obi be ye mean pe. Not that mean pe. I didn't have money to buy it. Into mean pe, and that is why I live my life. Live by the day."
It's been a tough journey so far, but how is she able to stay afloat all the hurdles?
Toda is a girl, but for my son, sometimes I think that he liked the father figure in his life, the masculine type, or the advice or opinions of a father in his life. That is what I think he might lack. When he was in school, I made a teacher, and I made him get close to a teacher.
Sorry.
And I had told the teacher to play like a father figure for him when he was in primary school to JSS. So even when he got to the university. But now we talk, and then sometimes when he asks for my opinion on certain issues and I give it, he doesn't say anything, but I feel that maybe he should have the opinion of thinking, the side of the thinking of a man in his life. That is what sometimes, he hasn't said it, but that is what I think. But for me, it is okay. It is okay. Once I can adequately care for them, it's okay.
Sitting and listening to her mom speak all this while, Toda insisted on sharing in the moment too. Here she is.
Mama is from girls, and Mama first helped me to everything from tea, and they gave me that. Gave me my money to do them all sons, and I get asked me that. You asked me that, come up and ask me that. Yeah, I get asked me and question to me. And I get is my best friend. And I kiss my cheek.
Kiss my cheek.
Do you love mommy's cooking?
Yes.
What things does mommy cook for you?
Jollof.
It's your favorite food for mommy. Say mommy is your best friend.
Yes.
Why do you love mommy's jollof?
Sweet. And jollof chicken and fat and side and beans.
Okay. So you love mommy very much?
Yes.
Nice.
After this a girl.
You saw Toda was telling them how much she loves me, how much she loves my cooking, and my cooking jollof for her, and then what I did for her on her birthday in March. And then she loves me so much.
We took a drive to Toda's school in Tema to catch some quick words from her teacher.
When it comes to the social aspect of her life, she's very friendly, affable. She's the one who easily makes friends with people. And one thing about Toda is that when she takes you as a friend, you'll not be disappointed. Though she's not as, there's a challenge, but she's one of the smart and good students in the class. Sometimes there were questions that she responds to, you'll be surprised. And so far, when it comes to academic too, she's doing well. Both indoor and outdoor, she has been very active. There's full participation, whatever that we do in class. And she's the kind of student that despite her disability, she does not let the disability to weigh her down. She's always at the top. She has a good relationship with students, both students and then teachers. She knows almost every student in the school, their name. She knows every. Sometimes she engages with a play with the other children around. She's been giving them nickname and other things. Oh, it's great having a Toda in my class as my student, because Toda, working with Toda for this number of days has given me sort of in-depth knowledge in children with a disability, because I am forced to do extra work, to go the extra mile just to satisfy to their needs.
Regrets? Has she any?
I do not have regrets because I believe that everything happens in a person's life for a reason. I love my son, and even though I had struggled to take care of him, I do not want to poison my son's mind against his father, that your father wasn't responsible. Anytime his father remembers that he has a son and sends something, I'll tell him, this is how much your father has sent. But for me, I met a man once upon a time. We got married. And then he dashed me a son. A son who was my companion for 18 years. Thanks to him, he decided to travel out and abandon his son. But I have a son. So I thank him for giving me a son. I do not have regrets.
Well, what more is there to hear after listening to this inspiring story from our guest, Agnes Teku Nyamite, here on The Untold on Ghana Web TV. We hope that you've been inspired, as is always our aim here on this program. Remember, there is news for you at www.ghanaweb.com, and we want you to connect. Be kind to one another. My name is Eche Atisu.